Hey, BassGeek here. And when the bass and the shad move to the backs of the creeks, and there's so many shad back there, the bite can be brutal. How do you stand out? Well, I'm about to show you. Where he come from? Look at that. Come on now, buddy. You got. I got you. Oh. Talk with you. Smalley. Nice little smallmouth. Now he looks like he might have been on the bed. Look at the, see how his fins are tore up. I mean, he might have started fanning the bed off. He's definitely not on the bed right now. But like I said, there was a what I call a false spawn just a few days back, and probably a good little male up feeding on shad. If you ain't scoping, you're hoping, boys. All right, geeks, so we are out on the lake today, and this is a little pattern that we've talked about a whole lot during the spring, during the fall. And so what's happening is the bass and the shad have pushed back. The bass have pushed back because they're going to spawn. The shad have pushed back into the backs of the creeks because you're getting those spring rains, and they're feeding up, and eventually they'll spawn around those sort of hard rock walls that we've got here on these lakes. That can make fishing very tough because what ends up happening is you have just this huge buffet of shad. So the bass are constantly feeding right before they get up on the beds. So the question is how do you stand out from all that bait? And a lot of times the bass that are on the bank, they're not going to be feeding, or at least feeding aggressively. So it can be a tough bite. But the bass out around the shad can be extremely active because they are feeding. So you have to use something that's going to stand out, that's going to give a little more vibration, maybe a touch of flash. And that's when I love to pull out the old jar head from Destroyer, or as I call them, spin baits. You put a small swim bait on there and you run it through those shad. Now, like I said, where are you going to find this? Generally, they're pushing to the backs of the creeks. So what I do is I just make sure I'm driving. I've got my side imaging on, and I'm just looking for these really big concentration of shad first thing in the morning.
Here's the big one.
You know what I did, don't you?
Mm-mm.
And it worked.
Yep.
They're definitely back in the backs of the creek. Notice what I got tied on. That around all that shad. Another one for today. A lot of shad out, a lot of shad around. So we put on our secret little weapon that we use. We talk about this a lot. We've done several videos on it. Love that little, I call it a spin head. I think this is called a jar head by Destroyer Baits. So, you know, when there's shad around and you're in clear water, that little bit of pulse right there seems to do it. Nice little smallmouth, probably a little buckmouth. Back thirds of the creek. Because generally the bass are going to be there. Now every once in a while we might catch some junk fish too, but for the most part when it comes to the location, you're going to be in the last thirds of the creek, all the way back, almost as far as you can get back in there with the shad. And the last part of location is really the bass themselves. That part of this pattern, the bass that were really down in the shad, because the shad was so dense and so heavy in places, sometimes they would follow, sometimes they would turn, but the ones that were just a little bit higher in the water column above the shad, as long as you could keep that bait above them, those are the ones that were biting. Jump hell out of a largemouth. That surprised me.
Let me move that.
What?
This way.
Well, hey, that's surprising. Second one in the back of a creek. Fatty, boo batty. Second one in the back of a creek. And the best way to really stand out when there's all that shad out there are these little baits right here. Now it's less about the swim bait and 100% to me about the head. Now getting the right swim bait, and we'll talk about that in just a second, to match the conditions, that's a big key. But these two baits, this is a Megabass Okashira spin head. This is a Destroyer Baits jar head, I believe is what he calls it. And the key to these baits really is the blade. Now it's not just a double clover leaf design. Instead, it's got a clover leaf on one side and an elongated, pointed, and slightly bent blade on the other. And what that does is it gives this bait some really good vibrations, even when you're slow rolling it through those shad or around those shad. I always say the key to getting more bites is firing up more than 1 cent. 2 is great, 3 is better of those bass. And what this does is gives you 3 different movements. A bait's primary movement, like the tail wiggle on this Swing Fat Impact by Kitech, is great. But what this does is give you a little bit of head roll and vibration. So now you've got a primary action, a secondary action, and some vibration that's going to trigger the lateral line and call those bass to them. And that's why I think this is so incredible. It's subtle in those clear lakes that I fish, even when the water's not dirty or they're in thousands or hundreds of thousands of shad. This is going to bring them to you. They're going to see it, they're going to recognize it, and they're going to eat it. Now, of course, matching the hatch is also key, so putting the right swim bait on and the right size. Now, both of these are made of lead. One of the biggest issues I have with the Mega Bass version is that I think they only make it to like an 1/8 ounce. So if you're going to need to get any deeper, especially on the lakes that I fish, you're absolutely going to have to look at something like this from Destroyer. And he makes them in a lot of different sizes. So we've seen a lot of shad floating over the past few days, and this is the 3.3 swing impact fat from Kitech, and it's what we've been catching them on today. This is rainbow shad, so it's a good clear water color, good bait that's kind of matching what those shad look like. And when the water is like super clear, this is a great little bait to go to in the fall when the shad are at their smallest. But I love the 3-inch, and this is the Easy Shiner from Kitech. You know, a couple different colors I use here, but you know, probably my favorite, my go-to is just the smallmouth magic. Again, another bait that I like on this is this little bait right here. This is the 2.75, but they make them in a lot of different sizes. Actually, they make them pretty big too. So any of the low-end 3s, like the 3-inch, I think they make a 3.25. And this 2.75 are my go-to. This is a great little color. This is their pearl or ghost shad. Another great one to put on there, and this thing is super finessey, is the Armor Shad Paddle Tail. Again, this is the 3-inch version. And one that I've added to my arsenal just this year is this from NetBait. This is the Sonic Shad. And the great thing about it is the tail is like a wedge tail. So kind of like a Huddleston, like the big Huddleston. It's got the same style tail on it. All right, geeks, if you're thinking about making the change over to lithium, let me tell you, nobody makes it easier than Ionic batteries. They have a whole boat kit that you can buy. So it is literally everything you need. And if you have any other questions, I'm telling you, the support is incredible. So make sure you call them, because they can help you with your specific boat setup. And to beat all, I've got a 10% discount on you. One of the best discounts that they give out. So make sure you go check out Ionic Lithium batteries on lithiumhub.com. Use that discount code to save yourself some money. Trust me, we've run these now for 3 years that we've had the old Green Goblin, and they have not gave us the first problem. Rain, sleet, snow, or shine, we have had a good time. So this is the setup that I've been using today for this little pattern. This is a casting, love casting rods. This is the Core series, which means it's core. Everything you need, it's in this series. And the reason why I love them is because they're pretty much 100% right down to the blank made in the USA. Now this is a medium heavy fast, but it's got a great tip. I can cast these a mile with it. It's not a big deal at all. You could use a medium too, but sometimes I'm fishing it a little bit deeper, a little bit heavier, so that medium heavy in this series is what I go to. I've got that teamed up with my Lew's Custom Speed Spin. Again, one of my favorite reels from Lew's when it comes to the spinning reels. I've got several of them. They've held up for years. They've changed them up a little bit, but they're still just as good. And of course, I'm always using my K9 braid. Now, K9's making 2 different braids. They're making the regular casting braid, which is incredible. They've come out with a silk braid that will cast so far, it can be annoying at times because you cast it so easy. It is silk smooth. And they are on Tackle Warehouse, by the way. So make sure you go check that out. And generally on here, I'm going to use 10 to 12 as far as the braid goes. And then I'm using the Pro 100% fluorocarbon from K9. And I use generally about 8 to 10 pound test this time of year. Geeks, when it comes to retrieve, look, I'm keeping this probably 3-4 feet above the bass. And the key that I'm targeting when they have all these shad, because you'll see a ton of bass down in them. Now, if they're shallower down in them, a lot of times you might be able to get those to bite. If they're deep, a lot of times those can be trash fish. They're going to be, if they're on the bottom side, a lot of times those are going to be, you know, catfish. But if you catch that one that's just all by itself and he's swimming along and you throw out there and come right up and buy him, that's how we caught every single fish today. And we had a phenomenal day doing this. Remember, backs of the creeks, so the retrieve's going to be super easy. You're just swimming it. You're letting it do its thing. Hook set, they're almost going to hook set themselves. I don't know what it is about this bait, but when it goes by them, they clobber it. And when they clobber it, you know, I lost 2 today. They broke off. Literally, one broke my leader knot off, and the other, I guess I just didn't tie a good knot that time, but he broke off at the knot. But they both were crazy aggressive when they hit it. And just literally, I didn't even have to set the hook. That's probably why I broke off, because I basically slackline them on spinning gear. Once you get them, you know, play them out, you're on spinning gear. Make sure you've got your drag set right. Get them to the boat, net them, thumb them. I thumbed them all day. Get them in the boat. It is really that simple. This is a killer pattern for the spring and the fall when they're around a lot of bait fish, and you need to stand out. Now, before I go, I want to say a big shout out to all the geeks that are 100% Watch Squad. What do you have to do to be 100% Watch Squad? Just watch the videos when they come out. Watch them 100% all the way through. Best way to help us out. Now, if you want to see one of our other videos talking about these little baits, make sure you go check that video out right here. Otherwise, questions and comments in the comments section below. Like it if you like it. Don't forget to subscribe. Make sure you ring that bell. Be part of the 100% Watch Squad. Really helps us. YouTube hates us. And you geeks rock.